Welcome back. You're watching Newslink. Now, Daniel Kazadi of the South African Property Investors Network has welcomed Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's announcement on transfer duties. In his budget speech, the minister mentioned that the brackets of the transfer duty table will be increased by 10%. Now, this will allow properties below 1.1 million rand to avoid any transfer duty costs or payments. He joins us in studio for more on this. Thank you very much for your time this morning. For those of us who aren't affair with all things property, what exactly does this mean for a young property investor or someone who wants to buy their first property? This transfer duty costs that we've just mentioned in my intro, what exactly does that mean, and what did the minister do exactly?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. In essence, what this means is it lowers the cost of entry when buying a property. For people out there that don't quite understand, when you go buy a property, yes, you might get a 100% bond if the bank is lenient, or depending on your affordability, you might get 85%, and you have to put down a 15% deposit. You have to pay transfer duties, bond registration costs. So what that entail does is it lowers that cost of entry when buying a property for young professionals, and it was a welcome, like you put it well, a welcome relief that the minister came with.
Yeah, and of course this then does allow for more participation for younger people to enter the property market, whether it be to buy their first home or to just start an investment portfolio in the property space.
Yeah, definitely. And when we talk about one of the stumbling blocks that comes with young individuals playing a part in the property industry, which is what excites me most, one of those being a huge flag being transfer duties, and it is a well-needed escape for young professionals entering the fields. It provides them a platform to build on, which is what we were playing for, huh?
And we've spoken about transfer duties as one of the big issues that young property buyers would be facing. But what would some of the other challenges be, or how do we make the space easier for a young person to navigate?
So definitely, I think investment is a very small piece of this pie in the property industry. What we feel is needed as South Africans is to encourage more participation in property as a whole. So investment, yes, is a big one. The other one is, how do we get more young agents or property practitioners playing a part? When we think about young entrepreneurs in the property industry, yes, finances might be a big issue in them partaking and playing a part in this industry. Another big issue is they do not have the know-how. When you look at a young estate agent, just reading at some of the scary stats, apparently 10% of all estate agents quit after the first year. It is an extremely difficult industry because of the nature of that industry. You're relying on commissions, and when you look at young estate agents, they probably do not have a job. This is their first time being in the industry, and they sell a property, but it takes 3 months for it to transfer. In that 3 months, they're still paying costs to attend viewings, so fuel costs, cost of living. They have to pay the rent until the 3 months point where they can get their first commission. So that is another big hindrance, and I think as an industry, that's definitely something I feel we need to address. Huh?
And it's an interesting one, because we've had this conversation around property industry and young players, whether it be via agents or investors getting into the industry. Why is it so difficult for young black practitioners to be within the industry? We do understand that it's still dominated by those who have largely had access to it in the past. But for young black professionals who want to practice within it, it's been very difficult.
Extremely difficult, and I think it all revolves around, yes, the opportunity, not being exposed to as much opportunities, not having the platform that allows them to take these opportunities. In some cases, an example that comes to mind is a young man within the work we do in Paul. He's based in Orange Farm, and he's got the great goal of wanting to run a beautiful cleaning company. He is running it within Orange Farm, but how does he scale is a big issue. And some of the issues he's facing is not having his business not being in a position to pay for transportation around the place. And that's where key partnerships like we have with Bolt, for instance, where we are able to sponsor his business to clean up, to transport his employees. So it does give relief. So that is just one of hundreds and thousands. So things like organizing stipends, I feel, for young black agents that sell a property and they're just waiting for the income, just for them to be able to cash flow, I think goes a long way. Huh?
Yeah, and what about the education platforms for them
Definitely.
to gain those skills? Do you find that there is enough of those that exist?
I definitely feel there is enough. I think the question is, can there be an awareness of these opportunities made to these young black practitioners to be aware of how do you venture into property? Yes, investment might not be the best way to go if you do not have the affordability. If you are a young professional, that's an amazing place to start with your affordability. If you're not, again, educating yourself on different policies that allows you to buy properties, like the installment sale method governed under the Alienation of Land Act, that allows you to buy properties without having the affordability. It's almost like how you buy cars via rent to own. You can do the exact same with property, and it is up to you to be able to run your numbers, do your due diligence. If you buy this property using this act, and you are able to rent out the property, how much the rent covers the bonds and everything that comes with it. Huh?
Yeah. What about interest rates? We're seeing the interest rate cycle right now, and it's really just shaken things up in the property space, and a lot of people are fearful to take the plunge and buy or invest or whatever it may be. What should we be thinking about when we consider interest rates and the property market?
Yeah, definitely. It's a large concern for all, put nicely. And it's absolutely scary. If you think, especially for buyers that entered the market when interest rates were as low as 7%, they could afford a R1 million house, where before that they couldn't. And now interest rates are going back to how we were before the reductions and all. So it's quite scary. My advice is, before you are buying any property, make sure you are stress testing that opportunity. So if the interest rate right now is at 10.75, what does the payments look like if it goes as high as 12%? It might not, but it gives you an idea and it helps you plan in advance. So you're not caught by surprise. So make sure you're stress testing all sort of scenarios and opportunities. And yes, we do not want to be negative, but if you can plan ahead, it does help.
And then just a final thought from you. Have you seen in the last 3 years since the advent of the pandemic, when there were different opportunities coming up, that more and more young people are taking advantage of the property market space? What trends have you been seeing?
Yeah, definitely. And it's one that excites me personally.
I saw the smile.
Seeing young people take control of their own financial future is what I love seeing, and many players in the industry love seeing. So there was a stat that came out, I think Absa Bank released a stat where the highest buyer in the year 2022 was young females, actually. And that brings me so much joy, seeing young females, young men taking control of their own financial situations, building multiple sources of income. And we are seeing quite a good number of young professionals choosing their first property not as their primary residence, but as a rental property, as an investment. And it's just amazing to see. Huh? It's just amazing to see.
No, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming to studio to join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That is property investor Daniel Kazadi joining us this morning in studio, speaking about the announcement that was made by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana about transfer duties and, of course, the bracket at which those would need to be paid. And, of course, the opportunities that exist now. Encouragingly, you've just heard him say that a stat showed that more women were the ones, rather, that were getting into the property space, which is quite indeed encouraging.